President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed his deep sadness at the passing of educator, diplomat and business leader Dr. Franklin Sonn, who contributed significantly to different sectors of society and the economy. Dr. Sonn, who served as the Democratic South Africa's first ambassador to the United States, distinguished himself in leadership roles in education, politics and business. Dr. Sonn was an anti-apartheid campaigner and pioneering champion of broad-based economic empowerment, who exercised his vision for a just South Africa as a board member in significant corporate businesses and as a co-founder of large black-owned enterprises. Former SA Ambassador and the Director of Risk Recon, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, joins us now for more. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Julia. Thanks very much for the invitation.
How will you personally remember Ambassador Franklin Sonn? What made him stand out as a diplomat and as a human being?
You know, my profound condolences to Ambassador Sonn's family, to his friends, and to everyone else who knew him. He was a diplomat par excellence, a real quintessential diplomat. What I remember about him when he was appointed in 1995, he consulted extensively with people like the late Ambassador Lindiwe Mabuza, Tebogo Mafole. These are the people who really developed serious policies in the United States, who campaigned for the isolation of South Africa. So he needed to undo that. So he had to consult with people who were involved to get a better understanding of the temperature of the United States politics. He was very consultative in his approach, and he spoke to everyone. He spoke to me because I also had a little bit of experience having worked in the United Nations during those days.
While he was ambassador to the United States, as you just mentioned there, between 1995 and 1998, what would you say were some of his greatest achievements in building relationship between South Africa and the United States?
He understood the importance of walking the aisles of the Capitol Hill. He understood the importance of talking to both divide in the Capitol Hill, the Democrats and the Republicans. He was able to navigate this with necessary diplomatic finesse. He was able to build bridges, and this was at the time of the heydays of our diplomatic function in the United States. You will recall, Juliet, that later on, South Africa had a binational commission. This was during the Clinton administration, but when President Bush Jr. took over, the relationship continued at the strategic level. So the engagement was across the political party divide. And I think thanks to Ambassador Sonn that he was able to speak to both the Democrats and the Republicans. And he understood the importance of these institutions in terms of helping South Africa to integrate South Africa into the diplomatic communities, to integrate South Africa into the global nations. So, and this was at the prime, Julia, of the United States power. It was the sole power. And issues around the relationship that South Africa had with Cuba and so were not an issue in terms of building the relations between South Africa and the United States that some now are using as an excuse. So I think Ambassador Sonn contributed immensely in doing that, building institutional capacity in terms of engagement. That's why when he finished his tour of duty, I think he was then followed by Ambassador Barbara Masikela, who also did the sterling work. So it was like a relay, passing of the torch from one ambassador to the other. And there was continuity, change in continuity in terms of our diplomatic relations. And thanks to Ambassador Sonn, who understood what needed to be done for the country. Not for him, but for the country.
Beyond his diplomacy efforts, tell us a bit about what he achieved, both in business and education.
He was a fantastic human being. I mean, if you look at the public servants who came later, take somebody like Dr. Ayanda Nsaluba, who was the Director General at DECO. They went to Harvard to do a bridging course for the public service. And thanks to Ambassador Sonn who facilitated that. He was a regular speaker in key learning institutions in the United States. He was able also to get funding for South African students going to the United States. But he understood building capacity of the state. A lot of people who went to study there, who later worked in the public service, who actually went for bridging courses in some of these institutions, like somebody like Lesitja Kanyako and so on. And thanks to Ambassador Franklin Sonn, who really helped in facilitating this training for some of our best public servants that I have seen certainly in my time.
What message do you think that the late Ambassador Sonn's life and legacy leave, at least for the current generation of South African leaders and diplomats?
He must have been sad towards the end of his life to see deterioration of relationship between the United States and South Africa. He must have certainly been sad to see how we are interfacing with the United States. I would have loved to just pick up his brain about what can we do, what are things that we need to really go to the drawing board about. I'm sorry that he probably died a sad person looking at this deteriorating relationship, particularly during these trying times when the world is changing, when the strategic relationship between South Africa and the United States ought to be reinforced and is taking a total different direction. He must have been very sad to look at the situation.
Thank you so much for sharing those fond memories. And that was the former SA Ambassador and Director of Risk Recon, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, remembering the late Ambassador Franklin Sonn, who has passed away.